11 cents per serving. That is the price of the food that built the strongest generation of men in American history. Not a supplement, not a powder, not a patented formula sold at $40 a month on a subscription you cannot cancel. 11 cents per serving of something you can find in any grocery store in the country, in every era before ours, in every military ration, every Depression-era kitchen, every pre-supplement bodybuilding diet that produced physiques. The modern fitness industry has never been able to replicate with all its technology and all its marketing. And yet no supplement company will ever tell you about it. No fitness influencer with a sponsorship deal will mention it. No protein powder brand will run an advertisement that begins with the words, "This food makes our product unnecessary," because it does. And that is precisely why you have never been told. The question is not complicated. It is just inconvenient. How did men in their 50s and 60s maintain functional muscle, structural strength, and physical independence for decades before protein powder existed as a commercial product? What did the soldiers, the laborers, the construction workers, and the athletes of every era before the supplement industry eat to stay strong into old age? The answer has not changed. The biology has not changed. What changed is who controls the information about what you put in your body and what they need you to buy instead. The archive opens in 1943. Inside the training programs of the United States Army, nutritional researchers at the Quartermaster Corps faced a specific problem, and they needed to design rations that maintained lean muscle mass, cognitive function, and physical endurance in men operating under extreme caloric restriction and physical stress. Modern protein powder did not exist. Whey protein as a commercial product would not appear for another decade. What the Army's nutritionists had was the accumulated evidence of a century of military performance data, and that data pointed consistently toward one food above all others: beef liver. Specifically, beef liver consumed 2 to 3 times per week as part of a standard ration. The Quartermaster nutrition reports from that period, which are part of the public historical record, documented that liver consumption correlated directly with maintenance of muscle function, faster recovery from physical exertion, and lower rates of the fatigue and muscle wasting that shortened the operational effectiveness of infantry soldiers in extended field conditions. The Army was not operating on folklore. It was operating on the most rigorous institutional nutritional research the era produced. And what that research pointed to was a food that cost approximately 11 cents per serving in 1943 and costs approximately the same in inflation-adjusted terms today. Go back further, and the pattern repeats with a consistency that is not coincidence. Roman legionaries in the 1st century BC consumed a diet that historians and nutritional archaeologists have reconstructed in significant detail from archaeological site analysis, historical texts, and isotopic analysis of skeletal remains. The core ration was grain-based. But the protein supplementation that distinguished the performance of the legions from civilian populations of the same era was organ meat. Specifically, the organs and offal of animals butchered to feed military camps were systematically consumed rather than discarded. Liver, heart, kidney, and marrow. These were not delicacies. They were rations. The legionaries who marched 20 miles daily under 40 pounds of equipment and then constructed fortified camps at the end of each march were eating the most nutrient-dense parts of the animals available to them because military logistics demanded maximum nutrition per unit of weight and cost. They had no understanding of amino acid profiles or mTOR activation or myosin heavy chain synthesis. But they had 2 centuries of observational data showing that soldiers who ate liver performed better than soldiers who did not. They built an empire on that observation. Move forward to the 1950s. Vince Gironda, the trainer who coached more championship bodybuilders in the pre-steroid era than any other practitioner of his time, documented his nutritional protocols in enough detail that historians of physical culture have been able to reconstruct them precisely. Gironda called liver tablets the most anabolic food available to the natural athlete. He prescribed his clients 30 to 40 desiccated liver tablets per day during peak training phases. His reasoning was empirical. The clients who followed the liver protocol recovered faster, held more muscle during caloric restriction, and then produced better contest results than those who did not. He did not have access to the molecular biology that would later explain why. But his observation was correct, and his results were documented across decades of training records. The physiques produced at Vince's gym on Ventura Boulevard, without performance-enhancing drugs and without modern protein powder, are still used as reference points for natural muscular development half a century later. This was not common knowledge that simply faded with time. This was knowledge that was economically displaced. In 1954, Carnation developed the first commercially viable protein powder formulation based on desiccated milk solids. By the early 1960s, commercial protein powder had reached the fitness market. By mid-70s, the supplement industry had identified fitness publications as the primary distribution channel for nutritional information reaching athletes and recreational exercisers. The same publications that covered training techniques and dietary guidance increasingly derived their revenue from supplement advertising. The economic structure was explicit. Magazines that ran supplement advertisements needed to maintain relationships with supplement advertisers. Editorial coverage that validated cheap whole foods over branded supplements was not editorially neutral in that environment. It was financially inconvenient. The information that whole food liver consumption produced superior anabolic outcomes to expensive commercial protein did not disappear because it was disproven. It disappeared because the publications most capable of distributing that information had financial reasons to distribute a different story. The biology, meanwhile, continued to produce evidence that the men who built the supplement industry were counting on you never assembling into a single picture. Beef liver contains a compound profile that has no equivalent in any commercially available protein supplement. Start with the leucine content. Men over 50 face a physiological barrier that the supplement industry exploits without explaining honestly. The leucine threshold for mTOR activation increases significantly with age. In a 20-year-old, approximately 2 grams of leucine per meal is sufficient to activate the mTOR pathway and initiate muscle protein synthesis. In a man over 55, that threshold rises to approximately 3 to 3.5 grams per meal. This is the documented mechanism behind what researchers call anabolic resistance. Expensive protein powders are marketed as solutions to this problem. What they do not tell you is that a single 3-ounce serving of beef liver contains approximately 2.4 grams of leucine at a cost of 11 cents. Combine that with the leucine content of any other protein source in the same meal, and you clear the threshold that anabolic resistance creates without purchasing a single supplement. But leucine is only the beginning of what makes liver the most pharmacologically concentrated muscle food in human dietary history. Beef liver contains carnitine at a concentration of approximately 500 to 600 milligrams per 100 grams of tissue. Carnitine is the compound responsible for transporting long-chain fatty acids into the mitochondria for energy production. In aging muscle, mitochondrial efficiency declines in direct proportion to declining carnitine availability. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that carnitine supplementation in men over 55 increased muscle carnitine content, improved high-intensity exercise performance, and increased muscle fiber protein content after 24 weeks. The supplement form of carnitine tested in that study costs approximately $30 to $40 per month. The beef liver that contains it naturally costs approximately 11 cents per serving. The biology is identical. The price difference is not a reflection of efficacy. It is a reflection of who is marketing what. The coenzyme Q10 content in beef liver is among the highest of any food in the human diet. CoQ10 is the rate-limiting factor in the mitochondrial electron transport chain, meaning the efficiency of cellular energy production is directly constrained by CoQ10 availability. In aging men, CoQ10 levels in muscle tissue decline measurably after 50. The supplement industry markets CoQ10 at $20 to $40 per month as a mitochondrial support product. A standard 3-ounce serving of beef liver provides approximately 3 milligrams of dietary CoQ10 in a food matrix that enhances bioavailability compared to isolated supplement form. Across weekly consumption of 2 to 3 servings, the dietary contribution to CoQ10 status is meaningful and comes embedded in a food that simultaneously provides leucine above the anabolic threshold, a bioavailable zinc for testosterone synthesis, retinol in the form that the body actually uses rather than the beta-carotene precursor that conversion-dependent individuals metabolize poorly, and the complete B vitamin complex including B12 in concentrations that address the absorption-independent deficiency pathway that affects a significant percentage of men over 60. The zinc content deserves specific attention because it connects directly to the testosterone question that no supplement company can address honestly in its advertising. Beef liver contains approximately 4 to 5 milligrams of highly bioavailable zinc per 3-ounce serving. Zinc is the rate-limiting mineral for testosterone synthesis in the Leydig cells of the testes. Research published in Nutrition demonstrated that zinc supplementation in zinc-deficient older men increased serum testosterone levels by approximately 93% over 6 months. Not in pharmacological doses. In doses that corrected a deficiency that is common in men over 50, for the simple reason that zinc absorption efficiency declines with age, and most Western diets do not provide the dietary density needed to compensate for that decline. The supplement industry sells zinc tablets. Beef liver provides zinc in a food matrix alongside the full amino acid profile, the B vitamins, and the fat-soluble vitamins that work synergistically in ways that isolated mineral supplementation cannot replicate, all of it at 11 cents per serving. Here is the systemic explanation that ties this together and that the fitness industry will not provide. No company can patent beef liver. No formulation team can develop a proprietary version of it. No intellectual property attorney can protect it. No brand can own it. The product that any man can buy at any supermarket for 11 cents per serving cannot be turned into a $40 monthly subscription. It cannot be reformulated each year to justify a price increase. It cannot be given a new name, a new flavor, and a new marketing campaign in the first quarter of each year to drive purchase intention. The economic model that funds the entire ecosystem of fitness information, from YouTube channels to podcast sponsorships to magazine advertising to influencer affiliate programs, depends on the continued purchase of products that generate margins sufficient to fund that ecosystem. A food that costs 11 cents per serving does not generate those margins. And so the food is not discussed. The information does not flow through the channels that information flows through because those channels are funded by the products that make 11-cent foods unnecessary. This is not a conspiracy. It is the predictable outcome of funding a system that tells you what to eat through the entities that profit from what you eat. Reconnecting with this is simpler than any marketing campaign will tell you. 3-ounce servings of beef liver 2 to 3 times per week is the frequency that the documented benefits in men over 50 cluster around in the available literature. The preparation that preserves the most bioavailable nutrient content is brief high-heat cooking to an internal temperature that makes it safe without the extended cooking times that degrade heat-sensitive B vitamins. 3 to 4 minutes per side in a hot pan with butter or tallow. That is it. If the flavor profile is unfamiliar, the simplest introduction is mixing ground liver in a 1-to-4 ratio with ground beef in any preparation you already make. The flavor of the liver becomes undetectable at that ratio while the full nutrient profile is present. Ground beef mixed with 20% ground liver in a standard patty or in a meat sauce costs under $1 per serving for the combined preparation and delivers a nutrient density that no protein powder formulation at any price point can approach. The cost comparison requires no calculation. A standard month of beef liver consumption at 3 servings per week is approximately 12 servings monthly at 11 cents per serving, $1.32 per month. A standard entry-level protein powder subscription at the doses recommended on the label costs between $35 and $60 per month. The difference between those two numbers is the margin that funds the information environment telling you the powder is necessary. The men who built this country's infrastructure during the Depression did not have supplement budgets. The infantrymen who fought across the Pacific and European theaters in the 1940s did not have access to protein powder. The athletes who produced the benchmark physiques of the golden age of bodybuilding in the 1950s trained in gyms without supplement sponsorships. They ate liver because it worked, because it was cheap, because the evidence of its effectiveness was observable in the bodies of the men who ate it consistently, and because no one had yet found a way to replace it with something more profitable. That food did not fail the men of those eras. It was replaced by a business model. The biology never changed. The leucine content never changed. The carnitine never changed. The CoQ10 never changed. The testosterone-supporting zinc profile never changed. What changed is that the channels through which nutritional information reached men were purchased by the companies selling alternatives. If you are the kind of man who makes decisions based on what the evidence actually shows rather than what advertising tells you to believe, and who trusts the dietary record of the men who built functional strength across centuries over the marketing language of an industry that did not exist until 50 years ago, then what you have just heard is not a discovery. It is a restoration. The knowledge was always there. It was just economically inconvenient for anyone with a marketing budget to point you toward it. Tell me in the comments what the men in your family ate to stay strong into their 60s and 70s. What was on the table in the kitchen you grew up in before protein powder existed in the conversation? The answers in that thread are going to tell a story about what actually works that no supplement campaign will ever fund. Subscribe because the archive of what the industry buried is much larger than one food. Every video in this series pulls another file from a record that was supposed to stay closed.